The Sydney Auditor General is on the case. 10 million vanished in 4 days. Meghan and Harry's Australian tour and the Invictus money pit exposed. Oh yes, I had my super sleuths on the ground again. And what they've dug up this time is going to make you spit out your flat white. Forget the glossy PR spin, the private citizen nonsense, and that ridiculous Page 6 claim that Meghan and Harry raked in a cool $10 million from their whirlwind 4-day jaunt down under. We're talking speaking fees, brand deals, media value, the whole cash register fantasy. Please, we all know by now how these two operate. But while the Sussex PR machine was busy inflating numbers and flogging $1,200 dresses from a hospital visit, something far more interesting was happening behind the scenes. The Sydney Auditor General is reportedly taking a very close look at some unclear funds linked to the event, and the money trail leads straight into the murky world of Invictus Australia. You're going to die when you see these financials. Grab a drink, settle in, because this one has more red flags than Harry's spare bedroom. First, the $10 million payday that never was. Let's start with the headline-grabbing nonsense. According to some wealth advisor named Ted Jenkin, bless him, Meghan and Harry were supposedly set to pocket $2 million from speaking engagements and appearances, $3.5 million from sponsorships and brand deals, and $4.5 million from media and content value. Total? A whopping $10 million or more. Oh, what a fantastic windfall for our favorite private citizens who just wanted to escape the limelight. Guys, let that sink in for a minute. This is the same couple who couldn't sell out a 300-person girls' weekend at the Intercontinental Coogee Beach. The same woman who spoke for barely 2 hours told the same dish soap story from when she was 11, again, and then bounced early to go watch rugby, leaving paying guests, who shelled out up to $3,200 each, high and dry. And we're meant to believe they generated $10 million in value from a trip where half the country barely noticed they were there? Where Aussies on the beach didn't even look up from their towels? Where the Opera House walkabout had more security than actual crowds? Come on. My super sleuths confirm what we already suspected from the seating plan photos. It wasn't 300 adoring fans. It was closer to the 119 to 133 range we crunched last time, with entire tables reserved for Entourage and Gemma's friends. The goodie bags? Bookmarks and flower sprinkles. Because apparently her products aren't exactly flying off the shelves, so now she's giving them away for free. How embarrassing. Yet the narrative keeps pushing this multi-million-dollar success story. It's the same playbook as the Netflix deal, the jam sales, the $30 million film roll, massive numbers thrown around with zero receipts. Manifesting, as the sugars like to call it. Or, as the rest of us call it, gaslighting. And while they were busy investing in women, Meghan's words, what investments, love? The failed podcast? The polo doc? The Christmas special that nobody watched? Taxpayers were footing the bill for police escorts, dog squads at the hotel. Yes, actual sniffer dogs, maybe checking for Harry's special herbs. And a taxpayer-funded coastal walk. All while they insist it was a private visit. Sure. Now, the real money pit. Invictus Australia's financials. But here's where it gets really juicy. While the Sussexes were turning philanthropy into a personal ATM, questions are swirling about Invictus Australia, the legacy organization born from the 2018 Sydney Invictus Games that Harry loves to trot out every time he needs a heroic photo op with veterans. My sleuths have been poring over the ACNC, Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission, filings. And boys and girls, the numbers do not add up nicely. Let's look at the attached income and expense statements. You've seen the screenshots. Note the dates and the employee counts in the top right corner, because they tell a story. In 2022, with only 6 employees, 4 full-time, 2 part-time, they brought in about $340,000 in total revenue. But they spent $705,000 just on staff salaries, and another $376,000 on other expenses. Result? A massive $740,000 deficit. They spent more than twice what they earned. In 2023, staff numbers jumped to 15, 12 full-time. Government grants shot up to over $2.1 million, but they still spent $1.3 million on employees alone. By 2024, they had 15 employees again and pulled in nearly $3.8 million, mostly from taxpayers via government grants. Yet employee costs had ballooned to $2.1 million. Notice the pattern? Taxpayer money keeps pouring in, private donations are shrinking, and the biggest expense is always paying their own staff. Even more suspicious? In 2019, they somehow spent $19 million with 0 employees listed. In 2020, it was another $500,000 with no staff. How does a charity spend millions with no paid workers? That's a lot of zeros with no real answers. Remember the 2018 Sydney Invictus Games? They had a $27 million budget and $2.5 million left over afterwards. That money was supposed to help veterans long term. Instead, the organization was rebranded into Invictus Australia. And now we're seeing more money going to salaries than to actual veterans. Their own website admits they don't give direct money to veterans or their families. Your donation mostly pays for veteran engagement managers, basically more staff who run events and shine a light on problems. The veterans themselves get told to go ask someone else for help. It's the classic Sussex trick. Use charity as a brand, rake in government grants and donations, pay fat salaries to the team, and give veterans the crumbs. Just like what happened with Harry's other charity, Sentabale, where over $1 million came in, but only $82,000 actually reached the children with HIV. The rest went to staff salaries and luxury housing. Same story here. Lots of big numbers, lots of taxpayer cash, but very little actually helping the people it's supposed to support. Notice anything? Government, aka taxpayer, money is keeping this afloat, while private donations are not exactly pouring in. And the staff costs? They're eating up the lion's share. Over $100,000 per employee on average in some years, including part-timers and casuals. And here's the kicker my super sleuth pointed out. Look at 2019/2020. 0 employees listed, yet millions in expenses. $19 million in 2019 and around $500,000 in 2020. How does a charity with no paid staff rack up that kind of spending? Volunteers don't usually cost millions, do they? The organization evolved from Australian International Military Games Limited, AIMG, which ran the 2018 Sydney Games, budget around $27 million, with roughly $2.5 million left over afterwards. That leftover supposedly transitioned into Veteran Sport Australia, which then rebranded as Invictus Australia in 2021. What happened to that $2.5 million surplus? Where did the post-games legacy money actually go? Because from the later filings, it doesn't look like it's flooding into direct veteran support. Read their own FAQ. They don't provide direct financial assistance to individual veterans or families, no grants to help with sport. Instead, your donation funds veteran engagement managers, staff who run programs, shine a light on issues, and collaborate with other organizations. In other words, more salaries, more events, more overhead. But the veterans themselves? They're pointed to other places, like the Department of Veterans Affairs or the RSL. One commenter nailed it. A donation is used to get more donations. Classic. Compare to Sentabale, Harry's other charity in Lesotho. Remember Dr. Sophie Chandauka, or Chandwaka as some call her, pointing out that in the first year, over $1 million in funds came in, but only about $82,000 actually reached children with HIV. The rest went to 3 UK staff and the CEO's luxury housing in Africa. The books there were apparently just as creative. And now Invictus Australia is giving off very similar vibes. Lots of zeros in the revenue from providing goods or services column, heavy on government grants and employee costs, light on actual, tangible help reaching the people it claims to serve. As one observer put it, getting money from taxpayers to hire pricey middle managers that don't provide any direct benefit to veterans. The pattern: philanthropy as personal brand fuel. This is the Sussex special, isn't it? Set up, or latch onto, a charity, mix it with personal appearances, claim it's all for the greater good, then monetize the hell out of the association while the actual cause gets the crumbs. Harry walks Meghan up on stage, gives her a kiss, plays the supportive husband in every epic disaster. She talks about being the most trolled woman in the world, while allegedly bullying her own staff and suing people left and right. They both trot out the woe is me stories. Diana, the bullying, the cleansing before having children. The same greatest hits tour we've heard for years. Meanwhile, the commercialization is blatant. Flogging outfits worn to a children's hospital and a women's shelter via some AI shopping platform she's invested in. Turning a faux royal tour into a wardrobe sponsorship scheme. And then the MasterChef appearance, because of course she had to mentor contestants on how to make jam. Equal parts fruit and sugar, apparently. Groundbreaking. The palace insiders are rolling their eyes, according to reports. Grifting is one thing, but carrying out a faux royal visit to a children's hospital while flogging your outfits online appears to have crossed a line. Exactly. And Invictus? It's the perfect vehicle. Harry gets the hero veteran photos, the sailing events with custom thongs. Good day, Hazza. The dancing at the opera house. Meghan gets to tag along and claim she's investing in women. The organization gets the publicity boost, and presumably more government grants. Everyone wins, except maybe the actual veterans waiting for real support. One Reddit sleuth asked the million-dollar question. What happened to the $2.5 million left over from Sydney 2018? Another pointed out how easy it is to move money between the foundation, the country chapters, and specific games years, fuzzy accounting at its finest. And now, with the Sydney Auditor General reportedly poking around unclear funds tied to this latest event, well, things could get very interesting. Let's do the math ourselves. The provided statements show a clear trend. Heavy reliance on government/taxpayer grants, millions flowing in. Donations and bequests fluctuating but not massive. Zero or near zero revenue from actually providing goods/services to the cause. Employee expenses skyrocketing as headcount grows, from 0 listed in early years to 13 plus full-time. Consistent deficits or razor-thin margins in some years. Add in the comments from the community. More than $3 million from taxpayers? And then they managed to spend 2/3 of that on 18 employees? That's over $100,000 each, including part-timers. Another. Invictus is nothing but an ATM machine to those two. Veterans are on their own, sadly. And the restructuring trick. Separate nonprofits for each games, country chapters, the global foundation. It all makes oversight fuzzier. One report even flagged significant risk of management override fraud in the broader Invictus Games Foundation filings. As for the 2019/2020 filings with 0 employees but massive expenses, my sleuths are still digging, but it smells like the kind of creative structuring that makes auditors ask questions. The Australian public isn't buying it. The street interviews said it all. I had no idea they were coming. They're very much about self-promotion. Least favorite royals. No massive crowds. Barricades up for people who never showed. Half-price tickets. Empty rooms. Even with staff fillers and freebies. Refunds being demanded. The Wiggles probably drew bigger audiences. Yet the grift continues. The sob stories. The victim narrative. The monetization of every photo op. Meghan leaving after 2 hours at an event people paid thousands for. Harry cleansing himself of his royal past before having kids, while William, who also lost his mother, somehow manages without the constant therapy speak. The pair acting like they're still working royals when it suits them, then crying privacy the rest of the time. It's pathetic. It's gross. And it's becoming increasingly obvious to everyone, including, apparently, auditors. Time for real answers. So here's what we need to know, guys. Where exactly did the leftover $2.5 million from Invictus Games Sydney 2018 go? Why do Invictus Australia filings show such heavy employee costs and government dependence, with so little direct support reaching veterans? What unclear funds is the Sydney Auditor General examining in relation to this latest Sussex visit? How much of the supposed $10 million earnings is real cash in their pockets versus made-up media value and brand leverage fantasy? And when will someone demand proper, transparent breakdowns instead of vague, "we shine a light" statements? The Sussexes will spin it as another triumph. Gemma O'Neill will say the event was fabulous. The PR team will leak more inflated numbers. But thanks to the financial statements, the seating plans, the early exits, the empty beaches, and the super sleuths on the ground, we know the truth. This wasn't a successful tour. It was another chapter in the ongoing saga of turning philanthropy into personal profit. While the causes, and the taxpayers foot the bill. Another failure, another embarrassment, another example of the grift that just keeps giving. To them, not to the veterans or the women they claim to support. Let that sink in. If you've got more questions, drop them below. My sleuths are ready to dig deeper. We need receipts, not more sob stories. And to the hard-working Aussies who paid for the police dogs, the escorts, and the grants, you deserve better than this sideshow. So long, farewell, Mr. and Mrs. Grifter.